And we should talk about the director, Josh Trank.
Yeah.
So Josh Trank, he was 27 years old when his directorial debut becomes #1 at a box office.
Which was what?
Which was what? Was Chronicle.
Yeah. Do we know how he got that job? Because to me,
his dad was like a big studio executive. And
that always works out really well.
And
that's always the best reason to hire someone for anything. The
writer of Chronicle was a guy named Max Landis, whose dad was also a big studio executive. So here's what we have.
It's the land of opportunity.
We have two kids who grew up in Hollywood, who they team together and they make this movie Chronicle, who I haven't seen. Apparently it's pretty good. But besides the point. The point is neither one of them really get success like that afterwards. Max Landis would go off to write like a bunch of really fucking terrible sci-fi movies. Josh Trank, right after the release of this, basically, so I remember this came out, I was in film school, and like everyone was talking about it, and everyone was talking about how Josh Trank was basically like the new Steven Spielberg, which like never works out for anybody. Right. Like there are so many young directors who everyone is like, this is the new Steven Spielberg. And
I'm just thinking there's an episode of Friends when Joey's going out for an audition. He's like, I really hope I get this. This director's supposed to be the next Scorsese. And they're like, what? Like the next Scorsese? And he's like, nah, there's someone in like Chicago. He's the next Scorsese. This guy's the next Scorsese.
Well, Steven Spielberg directed Jaws at 28.
So that's the parallel.
Josh Trank beat him by 1 year as the youngest director to have a film at #1 at the U.S. box office.
Spielberg's like, all right, cool. You could have that. My movie was called Jaws.
Yeah.
You might have heard of it.
Which is exactly that. I have to explain what Chronicle is. Yeah, exactly. No one needs any explanation about Jaws.
Spielberg wins that one.
Yeah, you got me by 1 year. Okay. But anyway, like he kind of gets a bunch of he gets kind of recruited to do a bunch of pitches for other movies.
Was Chronicle a Superman movie? I mean, not a Superman.
It was a
superhero movie.
Yes, it was, but it wasn't about any like major character.
Superman movie.
It was about kind of these like teenagers who get these like superhero powers, and one of them's evil. I don't know. I never fucking saw it. I don't care. I didn't want to see it because fucking everyone was talking about this Josh Trank dude when I was in film school, like he was going to be the greatest fucking director ever, and like this is some kid with a fucking dad who's a Hollywood executive who made a movie with his friend whose dad's also a Hollywood executive. Like, I don't give a fuck about these guys.
Yeah,
I don't give a fuck about rich people.
And by the way, if like, if they went and killed it, then fine. You know what? Make the most of your opportunity.
Yeah, I'm not saying that means you're automatically a bad director. Yeah. But if you
didn't earn it,
Yeah. But anyway, so he gets hired to do this movie called Fantastic Four. Obviously, you know who Fantastic Four is, the superhero. In 2015, they were rebooting it. Sony was rebooting it because if they hadn't made a Fantastic Four movie in like 10 years or so, and I think it was like if they didn't do anything with the property for 15 years, then the rights would go back to Marvel.
Right.
So they basically were making this movie
just to keep
the rights.
Yeah.
Which they ended up actually selling Fantastic Four back to Marvel anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But a lot of things kind of went wrong right off the bat. Some things are unconfirmed, but which, I'll say confirmed and unconfirmed. What is confirmed is that he was fired halfway through because he was fighting with the executives. Apparently he passed on 95% of their notes. And apparently he caused $100,000 worth of damage to a house that the studio had rented for
Now, what does that mean?
production.
He broke shit? Like, break that down. I mean, because to me, I don't understand how that could even be
He broke
possible.
shit.
How do you break $100,000 worth of shit?
I don't know.
Like,
I've heard
are you
things-
literally swinging
I've-
an axe?
I've heard
Like-
things that he like that he had a bunch of dogs that were like loose and that they tore the house up. I don't know, but apparently that was part of it. I've heard it from like multiple sources of like it was a dollar amount of like around or over $100,000 worth of damage that he did to a house.
I mean, that
he
just
rented on.
seems difficult to achieve. Wait, you could speak to this being in the industry. If that whole idea of notes, are notes like expected to be implemented, or what level was it just like 95% you're basically telling us to go fuck ourselves?
Yes. You don't. I mean, obviously, like if it's a director's vision, he doesn't have to do 100% of what the studio is saying.
Are there films where it's like, obviously, if it's Spielberg or someone, maybe they have more leeway over the notes.
If
but
you're
a young guy like that,
if you're Spielberg or Tarantino, you do.
Yeah.
But if this is a major studio with a major property and they're expecting
and it's a legacy thing,
if they're expecting you to make a superhero movie,
Yeah.
and you're trying to do your art house stuff,
not gonna happen.
you're gonna get fired.
Right.
All right. I've heard this from like multiple news sources, so this is not just me making it up. Apparently, he got into a fist fight with the lead actor, Miles Teller, on Fantastic Four.
Miles Teller, he's from Whiplash.
Miles Teller from Whiplash.
Don't know a single thing about the guy. Very douchebag face, though.
Very douchebag face.
Very
I knew.
douchebag face. So I got the director on that one.
Well, and then another thing
just
was that apparently he showed up to set one day so high that he could barely talk. Which I've also heard from like a few different like news sources that have said that he kind of had like an issue, and he showed up to set one day, he could barely talk, and he got into a fist fight with the main character.
Yeah, that's not so good.
Rooney Mara is also in this. No, not Rooney Mara. Kate Mara is in this movie.
Relation or no?
I'm not sure if they're related, but Kate Mara is in this movie. Apparently Josh Trank did not want to hire her. It was she was a casting that was kind of like forced on him by the studio, and would not even like look at her or give her any notes throughout the entire movie.
Oh my god!
Multiple things I've heard about this
It's like
guy
Adam
being a
Gase with the
douchebag,
Jets.
and he is fired halfway through. The movie is pretty fucking bad. Fantastic Four, and there's kind of like you watch 2/3 of the movie, and then randomly it says 1 year later, and the next third feels like an entirely different movie. So it's like literally like a 1 year gap of like you can tell where he was fired and the studio took over.
Oh,
And the entire thing tonally is kind of a mess. And for the first 2/3 of the movie, it is kind of like the Capone syndrome, where they're setting up a lot of things that like you feel like they're not going anywhere with this. And then the last third is kind of like very rushed. It's almost as if like the first 2/3 of the movie is one movie, and then like they squeeze the entire sequel into like the last half hour.
that's pretty funny. So what are some other examples of this guy's stuff?
That was it. Chronicle, Fantastic Four,
So that's
and then Capone.
Oh, okay. So he hasn't done that much.
He hasn't done that much, no. Well, after Fantastic Four, no one really wanted to work with him. He was supposed to direct Star Wars.
Jeez. Oh man, you really fucked up, son.
And he was
Damn.
supposed to direct Star Wars.
How much money did he cost himself?
And after like
That was an
the
expensive
financial
punch.
flop, after like all these rumors that kind of start circulating about him, he was replaced. And also, after like Fantastic Four was a critical failure, he went on Twitter and like started bad mouthing the executives of Sony.
What did he say?
He basically wrote like, I had an amazing version of this movie and these people ruined it.
That's gonna go really well.
I had an amazing version of this movie that no one was ever going to see now, and like these executives ruined it.
That's awesome.